right, and we're live. Hey, boys, how we doing?
We are doing fantastic.
Doing
good to be
good.
back.
Let's go.
Doing good.
This
First
is,
podcast ever. Hands are sweaty and
here we
feeling
go.
alive. Let's
we
do
need
it.
to we need to introduce some people here. This is the first Halloween special of One More Minute podcast. We have a returning guest and we have somebody new. So why don't you introduce yourselves?
This is Eric Hughes here and happy to be here again for this spooky Halloween special.
My name is Korey, Lakeland legend, and very excited to be on this podcast.
And a TikTok golfer now, right?
Occasional TikTok golfer. Haven't blown up yet, but we're still waiting on it.
But what was your top views on YouTube Shorts?
I got a couple that hit 1K, so
That's not bad.
checks
way.
aren't coming in yet, but
But they'll be
Pennies
here.
on the dollar.
They're
they
stuck in the
will
mail.
eventually.
Do you do that a lot? Do you put them on YouTube Shorts? I've never done that before.
Uh,
Is that
Yeah, so I used to love to post like golf content on social media, and funny enough, like YouTube Shorts would always get me the most views, like way more than TikTok would. So I would just post little clips, and they would do pretty well.
dang, dude? Maybe I need to do that. Yeah, my TikTok right now is just completely political or conspiracy.
Dude.
It's probably speaking to like what I'm looking at right now.
Yes, exactly.
I need to get back to church.
You know how Discovery page works, right?
Those
Yeah,
algorithms, baby.
It's just because what you're watching. It's like, yeah, that does piss me off. Well, hey, we should talk about who we are. We are three members of a group called the Dead Kings. That's probably what we'll title this episode too, is the Dead Kings. Eric, you want to explain what the Dead Kings are?
Sure. So the Dead Kings of SCU, to be specific. If you don't know what SCU is, it is Southeastern University, a Christian university that most
out,
of
Kit.
us met in. Kit Ingle, you are my man. So we were all boys in college, whether that was leadership or we all lived in the same house at one point or another in our fast-paced moving lives from house to house. And now we're all old guys. A lot of us are married. Some of us have children. And, you know, we're all over the U.S. now, and we stay connected by one simple thing, and that is fantasy football.
I love it, dude.
That is our
It has
way.
actually kept us together. And it's funny how like you can tell over the years how like we've gotten married or we've had kids because the group chat just is a lot slower.
Well,
It's
yeah,
like-
there's a few...
but it's still active.
Yeah, there's a few who speak more than others, and you know what's going on in their lives. They're not as busy, to say the
Yeah.
least.
Dude, I found myself, I have so little time for fantasy football. I'm also in 3 leagues, which is just a really bad idea. I keep getting talked into like a work league. The prize was like every Friday off for a month. So I was like, yeah, that's worth it.
100%.
Yeah.
And then a church league where I was like, I got to the group text message late, and everybody had accepted except for me. So I was like, oh, this feels bad if I say no. So sure. Yeah. How many are you doing, Korey?
Oh, it's a bad habit of mine. I'll be honest there. I'm usually in like 4 to 5. It just gets me every year. I always think I'm gonna do 1 or 2 and focus, and then 5 leagues later and a couple $100 later, I'm in it for the long haul, and it stresses me out beyond belief. Every Sunday, I'm constantly checking all 5 and just getting really upset every Sunday.
Dude, you can also tell in our group message who is, and I love everybody in our group message. I'll preface this by that, but you can also tell who's like not married by like the text I get where it's like, dude, I have $100 down on this like 6-leg parlay. It's like, what are you doing to spend $100 on this? Like, dude, I'd be in so much trouble if I was dropping a couple $100 on a bet.
You're in a bad place mentally and spiritually if you're just dropping $100 on a 7-leg
Yeah.
parlay, but been there before.
He's been delivered.
Yeah. It's like a text that we get where it's like, you think the Raiders are going to win this? Like, I don't know. Like, don't put your money on my guess, dude. Well, dude, this is the spooky episode, talking about all things Halloween. I actually just the other day was at Halloween Horror Nights over in Universal. You guys ever done that?
Never.
No.
Dude, it's so fun. It's so cool. It's my dad and I have gone, I think, for the past like since 2016, maybe. We've gone almost every year. And it's just a great vibe. You can walk around, you can grab a drink, you can go through haunted houses. And it just gets like sillier and sillier, like as you kind of go around. Especially you're just like it's getting later, you're hanging out, you know.
Yeah.
You ever done a haunted house?
Oh yeah. They weren't good. We did one in Ybor one time, and it was just
Well, no, I think that's just the main road, right? That's just
maybe it was. It was a guy. It started with a guy sitting on a cooler full of alcohol. So, and that was like our.
Wasn't even
entrance.
Halloween.
It might have just been a Tuesday night in Ybor. I don't know, but
What was funny is the main street of Ybor was actually scarier than the haunted house ended up being. I remember someone walking around with a shopping cart full of like very large snakes.
the snake guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think someone ended up getting arrested, and I think I saw like pizza flying or something. But yeah, it was way crazier than the 13-year-old girl trying to scare us in the haunted house.
Yeah, she threw a fake head. I remember that hurt a little bit, but
It's like you're actually going to the haunted house to like stay safe outside of the regular
it's
street.
scary out there.
Yeah, if you're have no idea what we're talking about, Ybor is like right outside of Tampa. Yeah, I think it's like Little Cuba, right? That's kind of the
Yes.
vibe.
Yep.
Dude, I remember we went there one time after we used to like before all like everything got crazy expensive, but we used to be able to get like $10. Me and you, didn't you go with me? We used to get like $10 tickets to the Bolts games.
Yeah.
And go sit up in like the top seats, watch a game. And then one night I remember we were like, dude, we're so hungry. So were you with me that night? We went to Buffalo Wild. We were trying to go to Buffalo Wild Wings, and there was one in Ybor.
Yeah.
And we got like 2 blocks down, and we were like, this is dangerous. Like we can't stay here.
I'm
This is
scared.
bad. Yeah. We're grown men, and we're like, I don't like it. We need to go home.
Should we pray?
Honestly, we probably did. But yeah. So let's talk a little bit. I'm curious. I've always loved Halloween a lot. Where are we ranking it on top 5 holidays? Like we can do this as a team too if we want to. Like
Okay.
top 5 holidays. What are your top 5?
Ooh, I don't even know if I. Okay. So I'm a Christmas buff. I love Christmas. I'd be lying if I said we ordered a new tree and it's already up in my house.
Come on.
No way.
It's already up, and that is a record for us.
The date is October 24th for everybody listening to this of when we actually recorded this. That's wild.
Yep. So the Christmas tree's already up.
Is it decorated or it's just up?
Just a couple new ornaments we bought as well, but it's not fully done yet. But it's a very nice tree. You can choose between white and multicolored, so we're pretty pumped on it.
So
the kid
plastic.
loves it. So I'd say Christmas.
Okay, Richie.
You know, I wouldn't go that far. But, then I
But
would
it's
say,
also it's baby's first Christmas, right?
yeah. So we
Okay.
gotta go all out.
So yeah, you're going all out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Christmas, and then I'd say St. Patty's Day.
Ooh,
That's a wild pull
that's a
there.
good
I
one.
love St. Patty's Day. It's the
I
Irish.
didn't even
in
have
me.
that in my list. Yeah.
Wow.
Then I'll put Halloween. Yeah, because I love horror movies. I'm like your dad, Alec. Like
Yeah,
I grew up
he's huge on
probably way too young watching horror movies, and so after my family goes to sleep, I'll be like, yeah, I'll watch this gory,
Yeah.
extreme horror movie by myself, and then get 6 hours of sleep just fine. And then after that, Thanksgiving. I don't know. What's another holiday?
Is that in order? Like 3rd is Halloween, 4th is Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
4th of July?
Yeah, I can get down with 4th of July.
Yeah.
yeah, I forgot about that.
Dude, yeah, that's Korey, what about you? What do you
I have pretty strong beliefs on holidays. I'd also agree with Eric. Like
strong beliefs like Halloween is
how
a devil?
I feel about no.
Convictions?
No. Just like when I think about holidays, I think about them strongly, and I definitely love Christmas. I love the cold weather, sitting down with your family in the PJs, getting the hot chocolate going. Everything about it. The Christmas will always be my favorite. Number 2 actually is Easter, and I don't know why I've always loved it. It just always feels like a bright and happy day. I like the bright colors. Going to church, I used to love as a kid doing the Easter egg hunts. So
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know why, but like Easter always held a special place. And then 3, I really do love Halloween.
There we go.
Kind of like Eric said, like I just remember growing up watching like the whole month of October, they would just play scary movies throughout the day.
Oh yeah.
So like all the Halloween movies, like I just remember loving that and almost like loved the like being scared aspect to it.
Like really scary stuff,
Yeah, I could get down with some scary stuff. Like some of my favorite movies.
Eddie Murphy's Haunted Mansion, right? Like,
Terrifying.
exactly. And yeah, I love like the haunted houses. Like I just like the thrill of Halloween. And then, funny enough, I just wanted to throw this in there. I really don't enjoy Thanksgiving. It might be like on the bottom of my list in terms of holidays. I think most of it is food related. I don't get down with the dried turkey, and mashed potatoes are all right, but
Stuffing? You don't like stuffing?
you're getting the wrong turkey.
Oh.
I am getting the wrong turkey. Sorry, Dad, but yeah, it's all right, but I don't really care for Thanksgiving, and it's like right before Christmas too, so it's kind of that buzzkill where you still got time in between Christmas. So
I do think Thanksgiving is just like a addition to Christmas.
yeah, it's like a buffer holiday.
It's just gassing you up a little bit.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. I think Thanksgiving's my number one. I really do. That's why I was so shocked that you didn't even rank it. So I think of it this way though. Like I look forward to Thanksgiving because of like the food. And I know that's bad. Like I love my family too. That's a real close second. But I'm like, we used to, it's been sold since, but my family grew up with like a cattle farm. And that's where we did our Thanksgiving like every year. We go up there, go to the farm, we'd shoot skeet, we'd like hang out, we would, walk through the farm, whatever. And then we'd all eat together. And it was just like all the best food. It's the ham, the turkey, the bread, the stuffing, the like pecan pie, like all that kind of stuff.
Pecan pie.
Is it pecan? It's pecan when you say pie, right? But it's just pecan if it's alone, right?
Yeah, you can't say pecan pie. That just sounds weird.
Yeah.
Especially
Snooty.
you, Georgia boy.
Yeah. But dude, I think Thanksgiving was like my favorite. I'm actually really looking forward to it already. Like we've been talking about like what we got to make. So Thanksgiving I think is number one for me. And Christmas is number two. Sorry, Jesus. But like, yeah, Christmas is number two. I love like the family around the tree, the presents, especially with kids. It's fun, like, it gets way more expensive as you get kids, but the Christmas is so much fun. And then, yeah, I feel like Halloween's a solid 3.
It's a good one.
Halloween's a solid 3.
Wow, we didn't even talk
plan
about
that,
this.
yeah. But after that, maybe I didn't even originally rank like St. Patty's Day, but that's such a good one. Especially, dude, when we lived up in PA, St. Patty's Day is like another level for whatever reason. Like here, I feel like it's like people are like, oh, cool, I'm gonna wear my green shirt or whatever.
Yeah.
Up there, it's like people have flags outside their house. They are like at the Irish pub. Like it's like a big, big deal there.
What's funny is I feel like you are, Eric, you couldn't be farther from Irish.
That's
Am I
kinda true.
wrong in that
No,
thing?
I'm very Irish actually.
Really?
My last name is Hughes.
Yeah, you just gotta.
Is that an Irish last name?
I mean,
I think it is actually.
think
Maybe
about
it is.
downtown. It's Molly McHughes, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Think about it.
You're.
So I am Irish.
I guess I would word it as your skin pigment doesn't necessarily scream Irish. To
I think
me.
that's more, the skin is more the Italian side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
The
yeah.
Italian side definitely shows through in the dark hair and the olive skin, but
So you got a little
my
mutt
anger and
Yeah.
some other things are very Irish in me.
Since you can't see him if you're listening to this episode, Eric is about 6'3", long dark hair, 6-pack abs, dark skin.
I don't
Right?
know
Is
about
that
that.
that's a good description?
Yep.
Yeah,
Nailed it.
perfect. Okay.
Yep. Nailed it.
Not translucent skin of what we're just assuming is the Irish. Dude, I did Ancestry.com. I got that for my birthday recently. And I don't know what it was. There was something in me where I was like, oh, dude, it's good. There's something unique in there. You know what I mean? Like I was like, I don't know what I was thinking. I was like, there's got to be like either it sounds bad, but like there's an African country in there, or there's Asia or something like that. Just something unique that I'm really excited to see. It was like 70% England,
Yep, there it is.
Wales, Ireland, Norway. I was like, all right,
All right.
right there.
Did you have any random 0.2%?
No, not a
wild?
single one. It was like there's nothing unique about this guy. Just straight white countries, you know. Dude. Yeah. So Halloween's a solid 3. I think St. Patty's Day is a good one. Dude, I was even gonna throw I was gonna throw in Martin Luther King Day in there, baby.
Shout out.
Like just because sometimes it works out so well where it's like you get the Christmas off, you get a couple days off there for New Year's, and then like right after that's Martin Luther King. So it's like
That's true.
sometimes you can work that out with work where you can get like a couple weekends off, like 3-day weekends in a row, you know?
Perfectly placed holiday.
I love when
That's what
they
you
line up.
say
There we go. Thank you. That was that's the goal. I'm not gonna go any further with that.
Yeah, we'll stop right there.
Well, let's do favorite Halloween. So when I think about like my favorite Halloween like memory, for me, I think it's my family used to do like we used to have like an unfinished basement. You went to one of these, right?
I
think
definitely,
so. Yeah.
and that
we
was
used to have
probably a highlight.
unfinished basement in our house when we lived in Georgia. And they still live in Georgia, but when I lived there too. But unfinished basement, and we would redo the whole basement to be a haunted house. Like we put up black plastic on the walls so it would like be super dark in there. And I remember like my dad would hire out like all of my cousins or like, you know, nephews or whatever, just like somewhat distant family members to like come out. And dude, we'd have like rehearsal calls, like a month out we would have rehearsal calls so we could like practice, and then it would be weekly training of like, okay, this is your role, like you're getting sawed in half, so let's work on the screen, you know what I mean, or stuff like that.
Blood curdling in that yell.
Dude, yeah, but he went out, dude. I remember we had like an actual we had a bed from a hospital. I don't know how you get that. I don't think they loan those, do they? I don't think you can get that on loan.
No.
Yeah, we had a bed from a hospital. Dude, what else do we have?
amazing.
There was like, we had to put up plexiglass so it looked like you were like looking through a hospital window, you know?
Oh,
My gosh.
There was The Ring Girl, which is also a terrifying movie. Like even today, like that's a super, super scary movie. Like there was like a TV, and then my what's her name, Darla or something like that, one of my cousins, like second, third cousins, whatever, she ran out the middle of the black plastic at people. She bought into it. She was really good with it. But yeah, she eats with 2 forks at the same time. I'm not sure why, but that's what she does.
I think that's scarier than
Anyways,
her jumping out at it.
any
if
videos?
she's listening to this, that's a totally normal thing.
That's right.
What? Yeah. No, there's no videos of it, but it was just a really cool thing we did. That's one of my favorite like Halloween memories, is like having those haunted houses and like all those big parties.
I remember, I think it was like I couldn't go home when we first became friends, my freshman year at college. And I just was like,
Not like you weren't
a group of us
allowed.
are
It was
going,
just- yeah.
let's go.
Yeah.
And I just remember there was a hearse parked in front of your house.
Yeah, dude.
And I was
So
like,
that's how deep he went into it.
Yeah.
Also, like a sidebar, my mom and dad have like listened to a couple of the episodes, and my mom's like pissed that she's never been mentioned in a single episode. But my dad's gotten like 4 or 5 name drops. So, Mom, if you're listening to this, I love you.
You are joy to the world.
You are. You're
Mama
a great.
Cantrell.
You're a great lady. But yeah, he got super into Halloween. I think he still is, but he's super into Halloween, and the parties were a big thing. And there was like a connection of like a dude that worked for my grandpa, owned a hearse. My dad traded something. Like it was just a straight up trade, like weird Facebook kind of deal. And he traded something for this hearse. He got it painted like bright orange. You remember that?
Yeah.
He got it painted bright orange. And I think he thought more people would get this particular reference than they did. But there's a line in The Nightmare Before Christmas, that movie, you know, the Disney, like all that Tim Burton, where they call Jack Skellington, they say, "What's up, Bone Daddy?" And that's what they called him, because it was like the jazz band called him Bone Daddy. So he got a sticker put across the front window, said Bone Daddy. And I don't think everybody gets that reference right off the top of their head, right?
That could be taken a couple different ways there.
Probably not the best way.
That's what's wrong with
Probably
this
not
world.
thinking Disney.
Correct.
Yeah.
God.
But yeah, so that was the Bone Daddy mobile. God, somebody bought it. But it's actually nice. Like inside too. Like it's kind of, yeah, it was older. I think it was like a 60 or 70 or something like that. But he did it up pretty well.
I'm glad it's cozy. You know?
For whoever.
dead.
Yeah. Can you imagine if somebody's actually, he sold it, but can you imagine if they're actually using that for like funerals
Like
right
camping
now?
trips or something?
And it was in Georgia near Atlanta. So like, can you imagine it's like midtown Atlanta? It's just like this like bright orange hearse is like actually in service. You
It's
know?
a guy with an air mattress in the back in between funerals.
But yeah, so that was your favorite? That's cool. Your favorite like
Yeah, that
holiday
was
memory?
one of them for sure. Because that was just, I mean, if you remember, there was madness. I think one of the guys we were with fell off a golf cart. Another guy jumped into a freezing puddle. Like, it was just madness all night. Like, why did you have a lifted golf cart? There were some fat tires on that
I don't
thing.
remember
if I
where all
remember.
that stuff came from. It definitely wasn't our golf cart. I think it was somebody else.
Yeah, because you guys were bringing in
I think all the money
guests
went to the hearse.
on
So
that
I
thing.
don't know how we got a golf cart. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
My other one though, I grew up a church kid, you know, so we had a harvest fest or something like
praise
that,
God.
you know. Yeah. Very assemblies of God, if you know the term. But one time I was you can appreciate this, Alec. I was in a hardcore band, post-hardcore to be specific. It's not a phase. When I was 15.
Lifestyle. Yeah.
And they were having a show in the cul-de-sac that this fest was in, and they were like, "Hey, we want your band to play," and I was so hyped. I dressed up as Han Solo. I think for like 4 years I
In a
was just
metal
a
band?
different Harrison Ford character. Like it was Indiana Jones, then it was Han Solo, then it was Blade Runner. Like I just loved Harrison Ford. I still have pictures in my office of Harrison Ford, but I was dressed up as Han Solo, and my hardcore band just played. And I think we started our set with like a metal version of like Duel of Fates from Star Wars.
Nice.
And like I wrote all the parts. Like I was so hyped on this. And then we just went into this probably 10-minute set of like 2 songs, and then we were just so hyped from it. But that was probably a highlight for Halloween's.
Where was
just
it outside of? It was outside of a.
Oh, it was in a cul-de-sac in Arizona.
Just like in your neighborhood.
Just a random cul-de-sac.
Just like a couple that doesn't participate in Halloween. It was like, we're trying to go to sleep.
Yeah, just trying to serve the church a little bit. Was like, yeah, we got a big cul-de-sac. Come on in. So we just put on a show to probably 15 people at the time, but
That's great.
it was
dude.
a highlight.
When I was in a like sidebar, when I was in like the metal band phase in high school and
yeah.
all that, the craziest place we played was outside of Ben and Jerry's ice cream shop. It was like my mom was a manager and she just got a hookup. It was Simpsons night because the Simpsons movie had just came.
It just gets better.
The Simpsons. I don't know why. It was like the Simpsons movie had came out. Ben and Jerry's did a flavor, and like we played the Simpsons movie, and then like our band played or something
That's
like
amazing.
that. Yeah. Sorry.
What is up, Denny's? Like, I'm definitely getting that
It's the
vibe.
same vibe. Yeah. Exactly. Oh, Korey, favorite Halloween memory?
Oh, it's it's funny. It's kind of similar to Eric minus the Harrison Ford.
Bummer.
Grew up in church my whole life. My parents have always been pastors, so grew up the PK life. So we were never doing like the traditional Halloween go door to door and get candy. We were doing the fall fest or the trunk or treat,
The
whatever.
trunk or treat.
But I do remember one year, my parents. Well, first of all, backtrack. They always thought Halloween was of the devil. Like, didn't want us watching the scary movies. Didn't want us to go door to door. And so I remember one year they finally caved in and let us go trick or treating, but we were begging on the day of to do it. So we didn't even have costumes when my dad finally cracked and said, "Sure, y'all can go around the neighborhood." And so what was so funny was, I'll start with myself. I remember I was a huge Star Wars fan. So I had like a Darth Vader mask and a lightsaber, and I just put on like a black shirt and black jeans or something like that.
Yeah.
And then, so naturally, Casey goes, "Oh, Casey's my brother, goes, I'll be Obi-Wan Kenobi." Except he didn't have anything. So he just puts on a white long sleeve shirt and a pair of jeans. And then my sister, I don't know where this idea came from, decided to be a box of McDonald's fries. So she literally
That's fitting.
cut out of paper like the big red for the box, the M, and then a bunch of yellow strips for fries. And I just remember going around door to door, and we'd kind of walk up, and they'd know what I was and know what my sister was. Like, it wasn't good, but they knew. And they would always go. They would stare at my brother in the white shirt and just be like, "What are you?" And he'd be Obi-Wan.
He didn't even have a lightsaber. He was just
no
standing
lightsaber
there.
either.
No
And then-
lightsaber.
And then I just remember like a few times of that happening. And someone asked it again, and he just stared for a second and broke down crying and ran home. So like our first time ever trick or treating was such a fail, but it's just such a good memory.
I'm just picturing your brother like going to a house and being like, "You get it?
Right?
You get it?
I'm Obi-Wan, of course.
Come on.
The white shirt. Hello.
Have you seen the movies?" In his Levi's, he's always in Levi's.
Blue jeans and a long sleeve.
Oh, it's so good.
Dude, yeah. I'm trying to think of like I don't think I didn't necessarily grow up that way. So we were always like trick or treating, but I feel like growing up that way, like I was the same. I was a Power Ranger for probably like 6 or 7
yeah.
years in a row, just
Classic.
a different color Power Ranger or like Ninja or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, you just go through those like cheap like Party City costumes or whatever, which they probably were cheap, dude. Costumes now are not cheap at all.
Really?
Oh, I just
Yeah.
bought one yesterday. Me and Maddie went and got a costume, and yeah, they're $50-$60 a piece, and most
And
of
it's
them
not much, dude. It's
Yeah.
like it's just like a vest or like
Exactly.
whatever. Yeah.
like most of them don't. It'll just be a very basic of the character, but if you want all the extra features or if he has like any tools or whatever, like you got to buy that separate. Like for example, we wanted to do Harry Potter because I just watched that for the first time this year and loved it.
No
and
way.
so
You still saved?
Oh, you know that was
Another
one,
thing.
that was
another
one I
thing
could not
growing up.
watch growing up.
Yeah.
So I finally watched it this year, and I could watch it like
They're
all day
so
long.
good, right?
They're so good.
It's definitely like a fall movie too. I feel like you can put them on now. Yeah.
100%. But yeah, so just like the robe was like $60 if you want their little sweater and tie. That's like another 40. If you want Harry's glasses, that's another 15. And if you want his wand, another like, dude, you're talking like
Are you
$140
kidding me?
if you want to be Harry
Dang,
Potter
dude.
For
this
one
year.
night.
You can go hang out at Universal now though. You
That's
can
true.
fit it right in, dude.
That is true.
Yeah.
And I almost did it. I almost thought it was worth the $300 for me and Maddie to do
Oh
that.
my gosh.
Did you get them from Spirit of Halloween?
I did. I did.
What a crazy store concept. They just slapped that sticker on some out of business, you know?
100%.
TJ
It's in
Maxx
the,
and
it's in the
go.
Bed Bath and Beyond
Bed
now.
Bath and Beyond.
Is it really?
Uh,
Oh, the one over at the mall?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy. Dude, we got ours from Target. I don't have costumes yet. I'm kind of thinking about being like Hubie Halloween.
No,
'Cause I love
my
that.
gosh,
I
that's
just
so
have
good.
to commit and like shave the beard or
Yeah,
whatever. But my son is Spin, which is like the like black Spider-Man. It's like there's like a regular Spider-Man. There's a white Spider-Man that's called Ghost Spider and a black Spider-Man that's called Spin.
Whoa.
I didn't know that. no.
Which is not Venom.
No, yeah, that's a different one.
Okay,
Yeah, I
okay.
did show him Venom. Imagine that. My 3-year-old is not a fan of
said,
Venom.
"Watch this."
He's like, no, like, no. I actually because we have like Band-Aids too. We got him like he's super into Spider-Man right now, so we got him Band-Aids and we put a Venom Band-Aid and he's like. He's just like a deep breath. He's like, "Who's this guy?"
It's just so
like,
unsettling.
Yeah, unsettling. And then my youngest is Batman, which is, dude, it's the best kid's costume I've ever seen because he's so chunky, but he's got like a painted on 6-pack and his thighs are just like bulging out of the costume. Oh, it's so good, dude.
Oh god.
Well, before we get to our stories, I actually have one more question. What's like the first like scary movie you remember seeing?
Oh.
Because I feel like that's a good I feel like everybody kind of has that like memory. Maybe for me, I'll do mine first while you think of it. Because I think I've told this on a show before, maybe not. But I remember, I don't know if this was my first, but it was one of the first. My dad took me to go see Dawn of the Dead in theaters.
Oh.
Yeah, I was not old enough to see it for sure.
Sure.
Or just not like I wasn't a fan of horror movies, but he was like, this will be a cool father-son bonding moment, you know? And yeah, I remember the first scene of the movie is like mom and dad are getting into bed.
Terrifying.
And you
Yes,
remember, yeah, the
I
mom and dad are
remember
getting
this.
into bed and they're all cozy and the daughter's at the end of the hall and they're, what's up, sweetie? What's wrong? And she kind of walks closer and you realize like half her face is gone. Just like her face is gone. And like they're like, oh my God, what's wrong? Like what's free? Like they're freaking out. And then she just starts going off and like eating them, right? Like she's a zombie. Like you figure that out. You're like, oh, zombie. And she starts like eating the dad, right? I think that's it, right? She's the dad, and the mom like runs off into the bathroom, and that's kind of where the movie starts. But dude, I remember being like, I don't know, 10 or maybe I don't know, but I was like 10 or something, and I just stood up in the theater. I was like, nope, and I just walked out. He like texted or called my mom, and she picked me up, and I was just like, done. He stayed. But I think he was with it. Not to give him a little credit. I think he was like he brought somebody else, so it was like. He stayed with the friend or whatever, and I was just like, I'm out. God. I'm done. I'm hanging out in the lobby of this. Yeah.
I'm going to go play arcade games.
For sure.
Yeah, the start of that movie was terrifying. I remember I saw the preview of that, and I had the same feeling. I was like, nah,
done.
So, way back in the day, my older brother was big horror movie buff. So he showed me all movies I shouldn't see at a very young age. Very young. I remember seeing the first Scream, and that terrified me. But we used to have this cabin in a little town called Heber, Arizona. It's up north. So it snows up there. There's a Dairy Queen and a grocery store, and that is the only things in town. So we would go to this cabin, and my brother made me watch the original of a movie called Pet Sematary.
Yeah.
And it just so happens, he that thought this whole thing through. My brother's 7 years older than me. And so I'm a little guy.
17?
Huh?
How old?
7.
Oh,
he's 7 years older than me. So he's already a teenager at this point, and I just got out of diapers basically. And he makes me watch this Pet Cemetery, and then he goes, "Hey, Eric, did you know there's a pet cemetery right down the road?" He was like, "We should go check it out." And it's my big brother, so I'm like, "Okay, I got to do it. I want him to accept me. Like, please accept me. I'm going to do this." So we sneak out of this cabin and we go to the pet cemetery, and he leaves me there.
How old are you?
Oh my word.
I'm probably
You're like 3.
Yeah.
I think I was 5 or 6 when he leaves my butt at this pet cemetery after watching a movie about things coming back to life, evil cats. Like there's like a kid who comes back to life and he's killing his, family members and neighbors and stuff. And I'm just like, awesome. This is it. Right. This is where my story ends. And then there was another movie that I'll never forget. Candyman, the original one. And I think I watched that with my dad years ago before my parents split, and he was a big guy. And I remember hiding behind his big body because Candyman scared me so bad.
I don't know if I know that one. I'll look it up later.
They just made a remake, but the original was like a classic horror movie guy, Tony Todd. He's like been in all these horror movies, but he was just like this guy with a big robe and a hook. And he would it was like the Bloody Mary thing. You say his name 3 times. It was like you say.
Was it the guy from Key and Peele that like remade it? Wasn't that it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So the original. And then, of course, my brother took me in the bathroom and he says, "You got to say Candyman 3 times in the mirror." I'm traumatized. My brother sucks now that I'm telling all these stories. I can't stand him. But yeah, those are the 2 memories that come to mind with horror movies.
I think I distinctly remember the first 2 scary movies I watched because I wasn't allowed to watch like that bad of scary movies. So I would always go to my friend Spencer's house. And the first 2 scary movies I watched, the first one, the scariest one, was a movie called Kill Theory. And essentially the idea behind that one was it was like a group of like 10 friends, and they were all going to a cabin in the woods for like a little vacation on the lake. And the house they were renting was owned by like this psycho murderer who was basically trying to prove his point that would you be willing to kill your friends to stay alive? So essentially he set the house up to where he locked them in. They couldn't get out. And he was like, "If you try to leave, I'll kill you. So you guys have 24 hours. You have to kill each other till there's only one of you remaining. if you don't kill each other, I'll kill you. And so the whole night they go through this battle of like, we're not going to kill each other. And then a couple try to just run away and escape. He kills them. And then eventually like they just end up starting to kill each other because they want to survive.
Gosh.
And so, yeah, I was probably like 11 or 12 and that traumatized me. And then another good one, which to me is just a classic. It's not necessarily like it's more of a thriller, but Disturbia with Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, that's.
I
actually
think
a
it's
good
just
one.
such a solid like thriller movie.
Yeah, for like our generation, that was like a good like. I want to like
Entertaining.
like in school, it was like, oh, I'm gonna invite this girl over,
Yeah.
and
To
we're
see
gonna watch
this.
Disturbia. Like that
That's
was
a good
the,
date
like,
movie.
But
I'm
isn't
gonna
it-
try and hold her hand tonight.
That'll
movie.
get her to snuggle in a little closer.
Yeah.
There you go. But I feel like that movie only feels like a horror movie for like 20 minutes, right?
Just the
It's
end.
like right the end. It's like
Yeah.
it's like if you watch that movie with no idea what was going to happen,
Yeah.
you'd get like so deep into it and be like, oh, whoa,
Yeah.
what just happened?
It's like
you
a
know?
rom-com for the
Yeah,
first hour and a half.
Yeah,
like, oh,
feels
Bad
like every
Boys under
Transformer
house
movie
arrest.
for like the first like hour, and then you're like, what?
Yes.
What just happened? Dude, I haven't thought about Disturbia in a while, or Shia LaBeouf in a while, to be honest with you. Other than those memes every now and then.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
well, let's. So this part of the show, we each have brought a actual true haunting story that we've each brought, and I think what we can do is probably leave it to the listener to let us know like which one is the most scariest. So
Sure.
after, if you're listening to this and want to comment like on the social media or whatever, and let us know, hey, which one you thought was actually the scariest or the one that maybe you knew about, let us know. I will say this before we get into it. This is a little more for the show. Is if you're loving this kind of stuff, especially like the Halloween special, this will be more for the Patreons in the future and things like that. So check it out if you want to join. Look into it. I encourage you to do so. But we have a couple of stories. Anybody want to go first or?
Sure, I can
You got
kick
it?
us off.
All right, let's do it.
Little disclaimer. It's quoted to be true, maybe not. Who knows? But essentially the story behind, and I got two, by the way, and maybe I can share the second one later, or if we don't have time, that's fine too. But
We'll have it. Yeah.
the first one that I wanted to share was essentially this dad and his son and their dog love to go hiking, and they did it all the time. And so they decided to go to this new trail they'd never been before. So they drove a couple hours and got to the trail, and were hiking all day long and had a great time doing it. And then a few hours go by, and the dad notices it's starting to get dark. So he says to his son, and he's like, grab the dog. We should probably head back now. And then an hour into their trek back, the dad noticed it's getting late. I don't even have a flashlight, and I have no idea where I am. So he starts to panic a little bit, like we need to find our car or find somewhere to stay so we're not just wandering around during the middle of the night. Like my son's probably getting tired. And so they go hiking looking for any type of shelter, and a couple miles later, they see this house on the left. Or this cabin, I guess you could call it. And so the dad figures like, hey, this might be my best chance for at least us to stay in shelter tonight. So he goes up and he knocks on the door a few times, no answer. Knocks again, still no answer. So he peeks open, looks inside, and notices there's no one there, but the cabin's actually like fully furnished.
Yeah.
And so he's like, all right, well, this is our only shot at staying inside tonight. And if the owner comes during the middle of the night, I'm sure I can explain why we're in their cabin and it won't be a big deal. So they go in, he puts his son to bed, and he goes to lay down in his bed. Dog lays down right on the floor next to him. And he lays down to sleep, and he noticed like on the wall, there was like a really creepy painting or picture of like an old man with a really weird smile. And he was just like, made him a little uncomfortable, but he was so exhausted.
Don't love that.
So exhausted from the hike, he ends up just falling asleep. Well, a couple hours go by, and the dad wakes up to like a dripping noise. And so he figured like, oh, my dog's getting into something like it shouldn't. Like, what the heck? And so he puts his hand down to see if the dog's there, and the dog starts licking his hand, which he usually would. So he's like, okay, it's probably just leaking or whatever's going on. Like, it's fine. And so he falls back asleep. And then an hour later, kind of wakes up to that same dripping noise. And he annoyed, but was about to go back to sleep again. And he opened his eyes and looked at that picture on the wall and realized, oh my gosh, like that's a window. There was never a painting there. And so then he's like freaked out because he swore he saw a painting of an old man. So he sprints to his son's room. And he goes, his son's laying down. He's like, oh, thank God. He wakes him up and he's like, son, you doing okay? And the son's like, yeah, Dad, but I keep waking up. The dog keeps licking my hand. And then the dad, his heart drops and he's like, the dog's been in my room all night. Like, what the heck is going on? And then he starts hearing that dripping again. And he's like, all right, I'm going to check that out. So he walks into the bathroom and he looks up and he sees dog nailed to the bathroom wall, dripping blood. And he looks to his left, and in the dog's blood on the mirror is humans can lick too. And he goes back into his son's room. The son is gone. Never saw him again.
What?
That's terrifying.
That the kid's gone?
Is the story true? Who knows?
God, I hope
But
not.
if so,
Oh, God.
boy, oh boy.
Boy, oh boy.
Boy, oh boy, I'm never going on a hike again.
Right. Yeah, I've retired from hiking after tonight. I got chills from that. That's gross.
Yeah, it is a great thing that we live in Florida because there is no hiking.
Yes.
So
That's
we're
valid.
safe, right?
It's
No
just walking.
cabins in the
Yeah.
woods.
That can't happen here. We can. I maybe actually have two. So why don't we go around? Then we can do another one.
Yeah,
And
I
then-
love
that.
yeah, we got time.
Okay.
So
I only have one, so I'll stay quiet the second round. But this one is a personal one. And you can laugh all you want, but this was traumatizing for me. And this spans over a few years. So my mother and I used to live in this townhouse when I was a junior in high school. We moved to this townhouse that we rented for years. And, you know, I thought it was pretty sweet. You know, it had a pool and a hot tub. And I started to realize it was not as cool as I thought it was. You know, I realized that it was an okay area until I walked to the Circle K, you know, one night and almost got jumped. I was like, okay, maybe it's not like a I walk around at night kind of place. That's okay. But I made friends with my neighbor. He gave me my first cigarette, I will say. First cowboy killer.
sorry, Mom.
Sorry, Mom. And so Mom was somewhere out of town or working or something. So I called up my neighbor, who was way older, but I had some buddies with me, so it wasn't weird. And, you know, we were just hanging out on the patio, and he was like, hey, you seen that old lady who lives a few houses down? And I was like, oh, the one who wears the same clothes every day? I was like, yeah, I've seen her. She wears that same red shirt and blue jeans every day. I'm like, she's always just staring out the window. And he was like, do you know the story about her? And I was like, no, I've been here like 4 months. What's the story? Like every time I walk to the hot tub, like she's just staring out the window. He goes, well, the lore around, you know, the townhouse community, which wasn't that big. He goes, but the lore is that she had a son and he used to play the piano a lot and her son died. And she went crazy. But at night, she's always up because you can still hear the piano being played, even though the son is dead. So I was like, oh, okay. You know, I was, you know, just, it was a long night. So I was like, yeah, real funny, whatever. And so then that passes and I start seeing this cat hanging around. So there's a few layers to the story, but I started seeing this cat hanging around. And I'm like, what is this cat? Like, I'm allergic to cats. I hate cats. Like, get away. So I'd shoo it away. And I had a buddy over and he was like, oh, let's name him James, you know, like really stupid. I'm like, okay. So James the cat always jumps on my wall and comes and hangs out with me. That's fine. Whatever. So every time we saw this cat, we'd be like, oh, there's James, you know, ha, ha, ha. And one night where we're out late and we walk out and I'm like, yo, I got to take a leak. So I go to like the side of the complex and I'm taking a leak and I look down and spray painted on the sidewalk is just James. And I'm like, guys, I say a few curse words. I'm freaking out. I'm like, we didn't even know this existed, but it says James right here. So I'm like, whatever, that's fine. So fast forward a little bit.
The cat did it.
The freaking cat is just tagging the neighborhood. I go to college at SCU.
Yeah.
And I come back, I think it was the first Christmas after my freshman year. I'm in the middle of freshman year. I come home to visit, and my mom goes, that's weird. The cats are back. I was like, what do you mean the cats are back, Mom? She's like, ever since you left, the cats just disappeared. But now that you're back, the cats are here. I'm like, oh, that's kind of creepy, but whatever. And so I'm like, I see James a few times, and he's got some buddies now, so there's more cats hanging around. Fast forward like halfway through sophomore year of college, I keep coming back, and my mom goes, she keeps airing out the story. They leave, but when you come back, there's always cats that come back only when you're home. I'm like, Ma, shut up. This is starting to get scary. So then one day, this is not as scary as your story. I'm just realizing I'm really sad about
I
it.
just love that James is like, hey guys, he's back.
Yeah.
All right,
Hey,
let's head on
let's
over.
go torment Eric. You know what's funny is my brother's name is James, and he's a menace to my life too. So it all adds up. So it was a weird night. I remember that. I come home to visit. We're at the hot tub, me and my old Arizona boys. And, there's this weird guy who comes and he's talking to us about like the difference between chewable tablets and suckable tablets. I guess he was a pharmacist who like lost his license. I don't know. So I'm finally like, screw this. I'm going home. And I go home.
Just passively, like he lost his license.
Yeah, he
It's like,
lost
I don't
his
know, he lost his
license
license. He shouldn't be
lost
practicing.
his mind. And I wake up the next day and I'm just feeling weird. I'm like, like I saw the cats before I went to bed. This is all so weird. And I'm putting on my shirt to get ready for the day. And as I'm putting in my shirt, it felt like somebody took both their hands and just like punched me square in the back. And so I throw my shirt off and I turn around and there's nothing there.
James?
And I'm like, this is screwed up. So I call
Yeah.
my boy. I'm like, you got to pick me up right now because I'm freaking out. I'm home alone. I don't know what's going on. I'm getting haunted. I swear to God, I'm getting haunted.
Oh.
And so he's like, okay, like I'm right around the corner. Wait outside. I'll scoop you. And I go downstairs and I open the door. And there's freaking James, the cat, right in front of my back door. And I'm like, this is screwed. So I slam the door and I'm on all fours, like peeking out my blinds at my back door. And he's like, my buddy's calling me. He's like, why aren't you outside? I was like, get James away from the door. I'm not coming out till that stupid cat is gone. Like I'm freaking out. And finally I see him step in and he just, kind of gets the cat out of here.
That's the universal getaway cat
Yeah.
noise.
And yeah, so I left. And after that, at some point, my mom moved and I never saw the cats again. And it is not as exciting as Korey's story, but
But you are the cat.
I think I was haunted by cats.
You
Yeah.
were in a real life Pet Cemetery movie.
yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you.
At
And
the-
the cat's name was my brother's name. Like, no, this was a sick joke.
At the beginning of the story, I didn't hear like how old you were. And so all I heard was like, you're just walking to the jacuzzi, like at the hot tub, like at your place. And I'm just picturing back to the other story where you were 5. And I'm just like, you're 5 years old walking out to the hot tub.
Yeah, I got
just
my
a quick
Capri
fits.
Sun. I got a 6er of Capri
Yeah.
Suns, and I'm just going for a quick fit.
So what?
What a day.
What punched you?
I don't know.
Oh,
to
boy.
this day, I still don't know. But
I
I,
don't
got
love that.
jabbed by something that day, and there was nothing there.
Isn't that weird? It always sticks with you. I feel like when something like that happens,
Yeah.
like I feel like I've had stuff like that happen where I'm like, I don't know how to explain that, but I just want to move on from the moment. But you always kind of think about it.
Totally. Like I haven't thought about that in years until you asked me about a scary story, and that it all came flooding back.
James.
Yeah.
Well, my story, I did a little bit of research. So my story is going to be a little historical here.
Ooh.
I'm
love
going to take us to the city of Nashville. So Nashville, Tennessee. Now, when you think of Nashville, what do you think?
Country music.
Morgan Wallen.
Morgan Wallen.
Love him.
Okay. Yeah. Chairs being thrown, right?
Yeah.
Nashville,
Country
music,
bars, whiskey,
country bars.
He let
Line
the
dancing.
liquor talk.
volunteers.
Well, all is true. Most people would think of the town that's 60 miles north of at Nashville called Adams, Tennessee. So I'm going to take us to Adams, Tennessee. So Adams, Tennessee, there's a river that runs through in Kentucky and Tennessee. And so I will preface this. I might get a few pieces wrong. This is most like, I did a lot of research, but I might get a piece wrong here or there. But it's called the Red River. Red River runs through parts of Kentucky and into Tennessee, and they call it that because it's like clay, right? So clay makes the river look really red, and because of the mountainous terrain in that area, there's a lot of caves. So there's a lot of like just natural along the river. There's these caves. Well, this is the story that I'm bringing to us today. Is called the story of the Bell Witch Cave, and specifically just the Bell Witch.
Oh, God.
So late, I'll do most of this from memory. I might go to my phone too, but in the late 1700s, there was, well, even a little bit before that. So let's take us a little bit before that. That whole land and area prior to settlement and all that kind of stuff was obviously mostly Indian territory. And what do we know from American history is that we move them on out of there. So not the best situation, right, to begin with. We're already thinking of like, okay, we're probably talking like Indian burial grounds and just not great history, right? But the land was like great apparently for corn and for tobacco. So
What else you need?
naturally, that's right. Like, yeah, you've got all the major food groups. So naturally, people start moving in, and one of those families is the Bell family. So we have John Bell Sr., who moves in. Actually, over the course of his area and land that he buys in Adams, Tennessee, he gets like, I think it was like just shy of 400 acres. So just a massive property.
Yeah.
Right. And so he goes, he has some family. We don't necessarily, not every single one of them is important. Like he has a wife, he has a couple of kids. One of the kids is Betsy. She is important to the story. But John Bell obviously makes a life for himself in this new land that's very rich for corn, for tobacco. He makes this in some unsavory ways of American history, as we know about, with some additional support and help there. And we don't have to get into that. But the story essentially begins with this. There's one day where and this is like late 1700s, right? He's walking around his farm, kind of just tending to his cornfields. And as he would just walk through, kind of just see how the crop is going for this year. The first sighting of ever kind of this whole phenomenon is actually like an animal. So he puts down that he saw this animal that looks like it had the head of a rabbit, but the body of a dog. So really weird, like, right? Like honestly, and maybe even not super scary, just like a very weird animal. And so he naturally has his shotgun with, as you do when you walk your corn maze, right? You have your shotgun with you. So he shoots at it and the animal just disappears, right? So that's that. Kind of fast forwarding a little bit to him and his son are both like John Bell Jr. Imagine that. John Bell Jr. are walking through another field of theirs, and same kind of phenomenon. They see this what they looks like a turkey, but it's just too large for a turkey, like a bear. Like we're talking like humongous size for what like a turkey should be. They didn't have their guns on them, so they ran back to their house, come back, but it's gone. Actually, no, sorry, it is gone, but they see it flying. So they see this humongous animal just leaving. And then the next sighting was actually by Betsy. So Betsy, in her part of her story, the first encounter that she has with the Bell Witch is that, and as we read through this story and you think about the story, like it actually like takes on different like personas and personalities till it gets to the Bell Witch, which is even freakier there. But Betsy, as she's walking through the woods, and imagine this is late 1700s. This is like a normal thing for a kid to do, right? Just you're walking through the woods, you're looking for something to do. She sees a little girl hanging, like legit, like hanging, in a green dress from a tree. But the girl's talking. So the girl's talking to her, and she talks to it for a little while. Now Betsy's young at this time. But Betsy talks to it for a little while. She goes home. She tells her mom and dad, I talked to the girl in the green dress hanging from the tree. And they go out there, and obviously there is no girl. So they see no girl. So the family kind of chalks all this up to, all right, just this weird stuff, you know. But they also chalk it up to, hey, they're originally from North Carolina. They moved out to Tennessee. This is part of the new world. There's just new animals. There's new stuff that they haven't yet discovered. So that's got to be what it is. Well, it does until the noises start.
Ugh.
So they live in this log cabin, as you would in the late 1700s. And the stories start to begin where at night they would hear these just bangings on the outside of their cabin, just like an insistent banging, boom, 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 boom. And John Bell Sr. and his son, John Bell Jr. would like get on their clothes, they'd run outside and nothing. There'd be nothing there. So this would happen over and over and over again. And still, yet nothing happened. Ultimately, until we get to the point where we start to see some of the actual like encounters that they have with this Bell Witch. Now, I can't remember. The Bell Witch went by a name at one point. Like it told them that she had a name, and I can't remember what that is off the top of my head. But the really important part of the story to know is, for whatever reason, this like quote unquote spirit, if you will, hated John Bell Sr. and Betsy. The reason also too, I should have said this at the beginning, the reason why this story is like so big is because it's the first ever like ghost story that garnered like national attention. So a famous president actually visited there. Can you guess which one?
Oh God.
You're right. It was Joe Biden. Yeah, Joe Biden. No, but it was one of his friends. It was Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson actually visited this house because he was a general at the time, but visited this house, and because of the sightings and all that. So I'm kind of maybe skipping around a little bit, but it's garnered the most national attention because it's a small town and it just started to grow and grow and grow, and talking about this issue that they were having. It also is the only ever, or the first ever, haunting story in America that is the presumed reason for a man's death. So we start to see that, particularly for Betsy, it starts to get rough. So the spirit just does not like her for whatever reason. It kind of starts light where like she'll be brushing her hair and combs would just like fly out of her hand. They would just fly out of her hand, hit against the wall. The story goes too is that one of the things that the ghosts most loved to do to mess with her was to untie her shoes and to throw them across the room.
Oh, that pissed me off.
Yeah. So untie her shoes, take them off, and throw them across the room. The family started to get worried, obviously, for their daughter. So they were actually, at one point, they were like sending her off to like friend's house to stay, but it followed. So wherever she would go, this spirit would follow. And like it would do the same stuff there until it got to a point where it started to get more serious. The spirit would actually like, or whatever you want to call it, like this thing would like grab her by her hair and drag her around her room. Like things like that, like stuff you see in like crazy horror movies, right? And to the worst of it actually is as Betsy grows older, this is like a continual thing, right? So this happens years and years of their life. Betsy meets a guy, I don't remember his name. I could pull it up here in a second, but Betsy meets this guy and falls in love, and they get engaged to be married. And for whatever reason, it's obvious that the spirit, like the whatever entity that this thing is in this story, right? Like hates this couple or wants this to end. So they would walk out in the woods together, just go for like leisurely walks, and they would get taunted. They would hear voices, like they would have stuff thrown at them. They would just like could not have a moment alone, to the point where it actually worked, where at one point that Betsy met with her fiance and called off the engagement, and after that it all stopped for her. It stopped for her. However, for John Bell Sr., it never ended to his death. So he would consistently like this. I really want to pull up what it called, because it was a really scary like actual name.
Bathsheba.
Yeah, but it wasn't that. I want to say it was like Karen or something like that, but I don't think it was.
Mom?
It started with a K, not your mom. Yeah, that's awful. But yeah, this thing would like here. Actually, I want to read this because this is actually pretty good. John Bell Sr. So this is from like a history site. As early as 1817, John Bell Sr. was abused both verbally and physically. The spirit regularly called him Old John Bell and ministered with him with profanity, curses, and threats. Soon after the haunting began, he started to have trouble speaking, eating, and swallowing. He said it felt like he had a stick of wood lodged between both cheeks in his mouth. This agony would plague him until his death. The spirit often threatened John Bell Sr. When asked why, after it began talking, the spirit would answer, because he deserves killing. No further explanation was given. So what's unique, what's crazy about the story, and the reason why it's actually like they attribute it to, well, maybe this was it, is when he actually passed, I think it was like 1820 when John Bell Sr. actually died, the like coroner or doctor, whoever, came over, examined his body and said, well, he was poisoned. Like he was poisoned. And the family, after doing some searching in their house, found this like vial of liquid that was like in, I don't know what they had in the late 1700s or early 1800s, like a cupboard or whatever. But they found this vial of liquid that none of them knew what it was. And to test it to whatever this was, they gave it to their cat, who immediately upon giving it to the cat, laid over dead.
What?
So it's actually attributed to the Bell Witch. And what, there's some other stories which are actually really cool. Like you could go down a rabbit hole about like, it's interesting is like this whole town has kind of attached itself to the Bell Witch. Like it's almost become like it is the boogeyman or like like this is the issue for all of our problems or whatever. It's like, oh, well, that something's happening to you. Oh, well, it's probably the Bell Witch. Right. There was another story that I was listening to of this guy who they explore the caves where they say the Bell Witch like lives.
No.
And they've made it touristy now. Like, so there's lights in it and all this kind of stuff. Well, he was guiding. It was actually his first time doing it. Like he was like guiding some students through it. They went into it. So you have to go through water into this cave to get to the big opening. When they got to the big opening, it's lit in there. All of a sudden, all lights out, just completely out. And they hear these little like faint, like little like talking and noises and stuff like that. And so they just do what they know to do. They're all in a line. They just walk out of the cave. And the guy actually listened to the documentary. It's really interesting. The guy was like, yeah, he's like, my son came with me at this moment. He was like 10. So he's like, I didn't allow him to go into the cave. I made him sit in the welcome center with the lady who oversees everything and the lights. And I asked him, did she turn this out on us? He said, she hasn't moved once.
What?
So for whatever reason, the lights go out. So the Bell Witch is actually interesting. So to wrap this whole up, the Bell Witch plagued, it's called the Bell Witch because it's like the Bell family. She like plagued this family for like generations.
Oh, wow.
Dude, like they actually, they've had to, there is a little cemetery for them and a new monument, but the original tombstone is gone. Like it was almost like yanked out of the ground and thrown away. Like they can't find it. So it's been multiple ones that they've had to renew and to get a new one for him. And I was listening to a little bit of it. The story goes to is like the Bell Witch like ended at one point and said, I will be back in like 170 years, which is so random, right? But 170 years later, one of the Bell like distant relatives wrote a story on this. And the year after he wrote the story, he died.
What, do you know what year that was?
Crazy. No, let's see, let's say 1700s, like 18, what's 107? Maybe it was 107, something like that. 1800s, no, 170. So I think it was like late, like what would that be? 1820, like the late 90s, the 90s. Yeah, it would have been the 90s. 170 years after 1820 would have been the 90s. So
has anyone
crazy.
Checked up on the family?
And there are large amounts of people who fully believe this is real.
Yeah, if you can go to YouTube and like watch like documentaries on that. It's crazy because like the whole town is kind of in on this. Like the Bell Witch is like real. Like there's actually still Bell like descendants that say like, yeah, I've experienced weird stuff that I can't explain.
No, thank you.
Road trip?
No, thank you.
Road trip?
But dude, I couldn't do it. But it's interesting to me. Like I listen to this other podcast where like they talk about like maybe there is something real. And as us, like maybe like being like Christians and believers, like maybe there's something real to like these Indian, like whether it's burial grounds or like grounds of like, and maybe that in some way there was like a bunch of like pagan stuff that happened there for like centuries before. And now you're just trying to like do stuff, and there's weird stuff that goes on there, you know?
Pet cemetery. There's an Indian burial ground.
Have I ever been tempted to do a Ouija board just to find out?
Oh God.
Yeah.
Maybe I would. I wouldn't. Never. I would probably. I probably would. I don't think I would.
I only ever think of The Office, that episode of The Office where he's like doing the Ouija board.
Yeah.
Daryl is an asset. He's
Right.
an asset. Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes I do get curious. Like, what would happen? You never know.
I'm not trying to communicate. I'll scope out. Like I'll go to, what was it, Adams, Tennessee?
Yeah.
Adams,
Adams.
whatever. I'll go to a spooky place, but I ain't seeking them out like, hey, y'all here?
Right.
Ring, ring.
Well, then why
Where
you go
you
to
at?
Adams?
Huh?
Then why go to Adams?
I don't know, to see if I can spectate them haunting somebody else, maybe. Leave me alone, but I'll watch.
I'd be down, like in the middle of the day. You know what I mean? Like I'd be down to go in the cave
Sure.
if it was like noon.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like pretty light
Yeah,
outside.
if we can get lunch
you know?
after,
Dude.
I'm good with it.
Yeah. I remember, dude, I can be pretty skittish. There was a time where like I had some friends from high school and we were like walking, it was just stupid stuff. Like we were like walking through the woods at like 2 a.m. in the morning, and I was the one holding the lantern. And we actually had a lantern. Like we're not like, you know, this was like 2000.
right.
You know what I
Fire?
mean? Yeah, this was 2000. So, but I was holding a lantern for whatever reason. And we're walking through the woods, and we just heard this like, you know, like, I don't know, it probably was an animal, but it just didn't feel like an animal
Right.
noise. I did not wait. Like my friends tell me, they're like, all we saw, like we turned around and it was like immediately like you were just like, the lantern was just like, just like
We just saw a
mile
light
away.
bobbing
Just
in the distance. A lantern. What do you just watch Lord of the Rings?
I've got one more quick one. I'll read this because this is actually a story, and this is a little bit local, right? This is the ghost of Winter Haven, and I thought this would be fun. This would be fun, especially something a little bit local. So I'm going to read this story. Did you have another one too, Korey?
Yeah, if we got time. If
Yeah,
not, no
let's
worries.
do this. So I'm going to read this real quick. This is the story of the ghost of Winter Haven. So I'll read it as this. In the heart of Winter Haven, Florida, there stands a grand old Victorian mansion, its turrets reaching towards the sky. Locals whisper of a ghostly presence that haunts its halls, a tale passed down through generations. Whoever wrote this is a good story.
It's well written.
It's well written, yeah. The story begins in the spring of 1887, which is normally when scary stuff happens, is in the 1800s,
Yeah.
right? A young woman named Emily, a beautiful and spirited soul, lived in the mansion with her family. She was betrothed to a dashing young man from a neighboring town. Their love was passionate and pure, and they were eagerly awaiting their wedding day, scheduled for the following June. But tragedy struck on a stormy afternoon on May 12th, 1887. The storm was so fierce that it toppled a large oak tree in the mansion's courtyard. As Emily was walking through the garden, the tree crashed down, striking her and taking her life. Heartbroken, Emily's family refused to leave the mansion. They believed that her spirit lingered within its walls, a comforting presence amidst the grief. And I'm going to get that, right? It's like
Yeah,
you
I
lost
would
your
do
daughter.
that.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
Over time, however, the family stories of Emily's ghost began to take on a darker hue. Visitors to the mansion reported hearing strange noises such as footsteps echoing in empty rooms and the mournful sound of a piano playing.
It's
There
James.
we go. It's James the cat.
James is still playing.
Some claim to have seen a ghostly figure, a woman in a flowing white dress wandering the halls. Others felt like a cold draft even on the warmest days, which we're in Florida, so a cold draft is like not common.
Not at all.
As if a window had been left open. The legend of Emily's ghost has persisted for generations, adding a touch of mystery and intrigue to the history of Winter Haven. Some believe that her spirit is trapped there in the mansion, unable to find peace. Others say that she simply watches over the place she loves so dearly, a silent guardian of the past.
Ooh.
That was a well-written story.
That is.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
That's wild.
We need to check that out. That house.
I'd be down.
I'd be able to head over Winter Haven. That's not long.
Yeah, that's
30
not
minutes
far.
away. less than 30 minutes, right?
That's like, yeah.
Well, Korey, what was yours? As before we get closer to wrapping up.
All right. So this is a true story for me personally. I was sleeping one night, and for a little context, I was in my room, and my door was open, and my door was right next to a bathroom. The bathroom light was on, and that'll come to play later in the story. But so essentially, I was sleeping, and all of a sudden, I woke up. And I felt really like eerie, and I didn't know why, but all of a sudden I could tell whatever I was feeling was uneasy about was coming from the closet, and my closet door was open. And so all of a sudden this crazy fear came over my body as I'm looking in this closet. And then, the ground, it was like this crazy sensation where the ground was like beating or thumping. And there was almost this audible noise of like, vroom, vroom, vroom. And then it just kept getting faster and faster. And I was like, what the heck was that? And I'm, if you want to talk about fight or flight, I'm always flight. But for some reason, I felt the urge, like there's something in this closet. I got to go check it out. And so I walk up to the closet, and again, I'm like, dude, there is something in this closet. And I just got this idea, like, well, if something's in there, I'm going to barrel myself into it. And so I picked the left side of the closet. I'm like, just shoulder first, barrel into there. And if something is in there, give it all you got.
All buck 35.
Yeah. 100%.
I can take this.
It would have hurt me if I did that. And so anyway, I barrel in there shoulder first into the corner of the closet, like fall over my clothes and shoes and everything. And I hit nothing. And so I'm just kind of sitting on the ground, just laughing like, dude, you're such an idiot. And then all of a sudden, the thumping and the voom, 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 voom. And it gets faster and faster and louder and louder. And then I'm looking into the corner, and I realize whatever is behind me is like directly behind me. And so I turn around. And it is like this, in my opinion, like a devil-like face just smiling at me. And almost, if I had to equate it to something like Star Wars Episode 2, Darth Maul. Like
No way.
Just like, it wasn't Darth Maul, but kind of just like that dark and horned, like just the classic, almost devil-like feature.
Sure.
And then he starts smiling at me, like, and I just get this feeling of like he knows how scared I am right now. And then out of nowhere, he just screams the most what's the word? Like piercing
Yeah.
scream I've ever heard in my life. And then boom, I wake up. But the interesting thing about the whole story was I woke up and realized like, oh, my eyes have been open like this whole time. I've like been watching this. Like my body is awake. I've been awake the entire time.
Oh my
Like
God.
sleep paralysis.
Sleep paralysis. And little did I know it would turn into about a 3-year bout of occasional night terrors.
Ugh.
Dude.
I got chills.
But dude, I'll
bro.
just...
Why are you so good at this?
Dude, I don't
Both
know.
of your stories have been like, I love how you were passive, like, I think I have another one. That's like the most terrifying
Oh, I'll
thing.
never forget that. Yeah, like I guess...
So you think you were like looking at you, like you were watching you.
Yeah, I think... Yeah, and I've had multiple like occasional ones since then where like, I think it is like sleep paralysis or night terror, whatever word you want to call it. Like I am technically awake, but my body can't move. Like I've had some where like there's someone in the room coming after me and I can't move in my bed, but my eyes are open.
Shabba
And then
ta ta
when
ta ta
whatever is about
Yeah.
to come get me or like jump at me, like the second it gets me is when I like my eyes don't open because they already were, but I realize like, okay, now I'm awake.
Like you can move once that
Yeah.
point hits.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna have a full prayer session right
Yeah,
after
yeah.
this, dude.
So God be with
Oh,
us.
dude.
Jesus.
I've had that happen before. Like I've had it like once or twice happen before where like I've like the sleep paralysis thing. And I know the feeling it is awful. Like it actually wasn't in the middle of the night for me, but it was just like you're like something is coming to get me.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's that awful
yeah.
feeling. Yeah.
Brother,
Dude, we have a friend in our not that he's like sleep paralysis, but we have a friend in our fantasy football crew that like I don't know if it's sleep paralysis, but he has some wild dreams. Like he like does crazy stuff in his dreams. Like Preston. Like,
oh yeah. We
Like
talked
I remember
about him last time we met.
we did. Yes,
Yeah,
that's
the
what it was.
mountain
That's right.
climber.
Yeah. Dude, I remember looking over. Me and Austin lived in a room with him like when we were in college, and he's just like doing like what do you call those? Yeah, they're mountain climbers
mountain
or whatever.
climbers.
We're
He was like kicking his legs. He was on all fours.
He has like almost like a soldier PTSD dreams.
Yeah,
like,
but he
where he's
wasn't a
back in the
soldier.
war.
Yeah.
Back in
he's
Nam.
back in Nam. Yeah.
No, I have
He's like
more.
29.
I think I've been in more fights with Preston sleeping than I have anybody else in my life.
It happened
That's
when we
crazy.
went camping, all of us. He
Yes.
like started hitting you in your guys' tent just in the middle of the night. And you're like,
That's
And
crazy. We
again-
talked about that the last episode, didn't we? Yeah.
Well, this was a different time. Same tent, same World War II tent. We were trying it out for that motorcycle trip.
Mm-hmm.
But he had a night terror again in the tent and beat the crap out of me. I just keep getting beat up by that. I can't win a fight with this guy, and he's
Asleep
sleeping.
or awake.
Kind of feeling,
Well,
not
you
so
let him have
manly.
it. As we said earlier in the show, Eric is 6'3". He's probably about what, like 130 pounds of muscle, right? Like 6-pack abs. Like we're just
Yep,
that's
yep,
Eric.
jacked.
Yeah. Perfect.
Think Dwayne
Huge
the Rock
guy.
Johnson.
Yes.
That's me. But
I love
with
that.
hair.
For this audio podcast, that's a great way to just like picture.
Sure.
Yeah,
Don't
there we
look
go.
me up.
Well, guys, this has been fun. I really enjoyed this a lot.
It's been a blast.
All of the stories that we shared tonight were 100% true, except for one. The Ghost of Winter Haven was 100% AI. We just put that together to see if you enjoyed it. You can believe it. That's pretty much the same about all these stories, right? It's just like a little bit of, okay, that's fun to believe.
You didn't tell me that. I was planning a date night to Winter Haven.
To Winter Haven, yeah. What's crazy is I was like, I wonder how good AI could come up with a horror story. And that was, so technically this is second try. First try, that story came up. And then all of a sudden, second try, I just said, hey, add dates to it. And it added the 1887. But isn't it crazy how good it is?
Yeah.
It's actually a good story.
yeah.
Like, I'd believe that.
Yeah, we're
Kinda.
in the Terminator days.
Dude, it's wild.
That's my hot take.
Yeah. I think, well, I don't think, I know. Like, AI writes most of my emails lately. It's kind of helping me out with work. But, you know,
100%.
Yeah.
Cutting a few hours short.
Yeah.
Sure.
Getting out of there early. Anyways, well, hey, thank you so much for listening to this. Happy Halloween from the Dead Kings. We hope that you enjoy it. Stay safe out there. Eat a whole bunch of candy. And any last words?
Say your
Guys?
prayers.
Say.
It's been a blast. And stay away from night terrors. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, guys. We'll be back.